In our previous lessons, we've been talking about Roman Catholicism, and I'm doing some exposures pertaining to that religio-political organization. And some people might ask the question, well, this is the patriotic pulpit. Why has this to do with, or what has this to do with patriotism in America? Well, today's lesson involves exactly that, and it explains a lot of why we want to and need to expose some of the errors of Roman Catholicism. And the title of this is Roman Catholicism is Un-American. Roman Catholicism is un-American. Now, before we get into the material, I want to say a couple of things, what I'm not saying and what I am going to say. So let's note what I am not saying when I say Roman Catholicism is un-American. Number one, I'm not saying that the Roman Catholic Church is trying to overthrow America by a force of arms. I'm not suggesting that the Roman Catholic Church has taken up arms against the United States. Not such a conspiratorial theory. Number two, I'm not saying that the rank and file people of the Catholic Church are un-American. The rank and file, that is, the so-called laity, are not un-American. They're not unpatriotic. As a matter of fact, J.D. Vance, the Vice President of the United States, whom I admire very much, is a Roman Catholic, but I believe that J.D. Vance is absolutely ignorant on what Catholicism actually teaches as the system. Number three, I'm not accusing Roman Catholics, Roman Catholic individuals of being disloyal to America. The laity, as I said, are simply unaware, or is simply unaware of what Catholicism actually teaches. So what am I saying when I point out that Roman Catholicism is un-American? I'm saying that the Roman Catholic system, the system itself, is contrary to our Constitution, and it is contrary to the American way of life. That's basically what we're putting forward today. I would like also to note that every statement that I'm making here, or every quotation, I'll make some comments upon them, but every quotation that I make comes from Roman Catholic authorities. They do not come from Protestants. They do not come from people of the Churches of Christ, of which I'm a member. If anyone thinks I'm misrepresenting the Roman Catholic Church, they can take the matter to court. I'm happy to show the documents. We're happy to see exactly what the Roman Catholic Church, and particularly the Roman Catholic pontiffs, that is, the popes, have actually stated. The Roman Catholic Church is actually a civil institution. It is a civic, it is a secular government. It has wealth, it has power, it makes treaties, civic treaties, concordats, it has diplomats, it maintains territories, it has fought wars, it punishes evildoers throughout history. This is how the Roman Catholic Church has operated. It is not simply a spiritual institution, as the Church of the New Testament is a spiritual institution. It is a civic, it is a secular government. Now, Catholics must accept, in order to be faithful to the Catholic Church, the Catholic individuals must accept all that is contained in what are called the bulls. The bulls are the official statements that the Pope makes. Now, there's no need to write on the feed, that is the feed that we have. There's no need to write and say, well, the Pope was said so-and-so, and he was such and such was speaking ex cathedra out of the chair. He was not speaking ex cathedra. He was speaking actually not as an official of the Roman Catholic Church. That is not going to fly. Why? Pope Boniface number 8 made this statement, quote, "The dogmatic definition contained in the bull," that is what we're going to read from. That is, Boniface was at the beginning of the 14th century. So the dogmatic definition contained in the bull is the doctrine necessarily held by every Catholic, namely that by divine law all men are subject to the jurisdiction of St. Peter and his successors, the Roman pontiffs. That is the Pope. So the Pope is, as Catholic doctrine tells us, the successor of Peter, and everyone, according to Boniface number 8, the Pope said, everyone is necessarily, every Catholic is necessarily held accountable to that divine law that is pronounced by the Pope. So popes have been over kingdoms, over kings, over territories. Boniface number 8 in 1301 said, he appeals to the kings, or he that appeals to kings to listen to the vicar of Christ, who is placed over kings and kingdoms. This is actually from the Catholic Encyclopedia, volume number 2, page, wouldn't you know it, 666. So Boniface also said this, let not the king imagine that he has no superior, is not subject to the highest authority in the church. So what is Boniface telling us? Boniface is saying that kings, presidents, vice presidents, all are under another secular authority, and that is the Pope. The Pope is a secular power. The Roman Catholic Church is a secular government, and every Catholic is under another secular power, that is the Pope. Now that's what Pope Boniface had to say. Now furthermore, let's notice what the Catholic Church has said regarding its authority over civil governments, and the philosophy goes back to this principle that they call the two swords. Now the two swords comes from Luke chapter 23. Just before our Lord's crucifixion, he told the apostles that they needed to go sell what they had, sell their cloak and buy a sword. One of the apostles said, well, here are two swords. That is, they misunderstood what the Lord had to say regarding it. He was pointing out simply that it was not going to be as it had been in the past in preaching. But no matter the exegesis of that text, one thing we know is not being taught is, and that is, that there are two swords, one sword for the spiritual kingdom and one sword over the civic authorities. That's what the popes have put forward, however, as regarding Luke chapter 22, and they call it the control, or the church has two swords. So here's how the Catholic Encyclopedia puts it. Under control of the church are two swords, that is, two powers, the expression referring to the medieval theory of two swords, spiritual and secular. This is substantiated by the customary reference to the swords of the apostles at the arrest of Christ in Luke chapter 22. The encyclopedia goes on to say both swords are in power of the church. The spiritual is wielded by the church by the hand of the clergy. The secular, that is over civil governments, is to be employed for the church by the hand of civil authority, but under the direction of spiritual power. That is to say, just stop for a moment, that is to say, they're telling us that the Pope, spiritual authority, is over the civil authority, and he holds civic power. Continuing in the Catholic Encyclopedia, the one sword must be subordinate to the other. The earthly power must submit to the spiritual authority, as this has precedence of the secular on the account of its greatness and sublimity. For the spiritual power has the right to establish and guide the secular power, and also to judge it when it does not act rightly. When, however, the earthly power goes astray, that is, let's say the American government goes astray, it is judged by the highest power is judged by God. And they're saying, of course, that's the Catholic Church. Continuing, this authority, although granted to man, is exercised by man, is not a human authority, but rather a divine one, granted to Peter by divine commission and confirmed in him and his successors. All right, that would be the Pope. Consequently, whoever opposes this power ordained to God opposes the law of God and seems like a Manichaean to accept two principles. Now, therefore, we declare and we say and we determine and pronounce that for every human creature it is necessary for salvation to be subject to the authority of the Roman Pontiff. End of quote. Catholic Encyclopedia. All right. Two swords. The idea is that we have a spiritual power, but we also have civic authority. We're over civic governments. That's the Roman Catholic position. Now let's see how this works itself out for just a moment. And we're going to read this, some of the syllabus of Pius number 9 in 1854. Now, you can look it up on and someone might look on their iPhone, say, you know what, my iPhone says, AI says, well, not all theologians accept this, blah, blah, blah. We have already heard from the popes that say when a bull is issued, that's their official inspired statement, then it must be accepted by Roman Catholics. I don't care what theologians say. This is what the Pope had said, Pius number 9 in 1854. And so there are 80 propositions which he calls errors regarding what's going on in different governments, including the American government. So we're just going to choose some of them to note what Pius number 9 had to say is an error. Number one, it's an error. This is number 15. He says that the man has a right to choose his own religion. In other words, a person, a man or a woman, does not have a right to choose their own religion. That's Pius number 9. Furthermore, he tells us the Roman Catholic Church has the right to employ force to compel obedience. That was number 24. The Roman Catholic Church has the power to enforce obedience by employing, that would be force to compel. Now that's what the Roman Catholic Church teaches. Number 43, the Roman Catholic Church should enjoy immunities and that no civil state has the right to object to these privileges. Now in Catholic countries, they have always pressed for monies that are taken out of the public coffers, tax money, and given to the Roman Catholic Church or given to Roman Catholic schools. That's what they're saying here. So we should enjoy immunities and that no civil state has the right to object to these privileges. This is the basis for the concordats arranged with secular governments. Roman Catholic Church, a secular government, a concordat with other governments, such as it did with Nazi Germany. We'll talk about that one in a future podcast. They tell us that we have a right to make these concordats and we have a right to enjoy special immunities, and no civil state has a right to object to these privileges. What privileges is it of which they speak? That is, tax exemption or tax monies given to the schools, paying tax money, paying to Catholic schools for their education. Number 45 through 48, the Roman Catholic Church has exclusive right over all schools, public education. All schools. Number 55, the Roman Catholic Church claims that the church and state should be united. That is, all together. This flies in the face of Americanism, which separates the church from the state. I wonder what our founding fathers had in mind when they separated the church from the state. This is exactly what they had in mind. Or, number 77 declares that the Catholic religion should be the only one permitted in a nation. How do you like that? The only church permitted in a state. This is the bull issued by Pius number 9 in 1854, is the Roman Catholic religion. Number 78 insists that non-Catholics coming to a Catholic country should not be allowed to worship publicly. This is why, by the way, the Church of Christ and missionaries from the Churches of Christ have been persecuted by Catholic countries. This is why Francisco Franco, the ruler of Spain, in 1953 signed a concordat with the Vatican. The Vatican agreed to allow Spanish kings to appoint clerical figures. Spain agreed to extend to the Roman Catholic Church special privileges such as state funding, exemption from government taxation, plus dominance in the schools. Note this also. The Knights of Columbus are totally committed to this syllabus. This is exactly what Pius number 9 taught. This is what the Roman Catholics must believe. But I take it many people in the Roman Church, the laity, the people, don't know what their own church teaches. Note also, Pope Leo number 13, who was the Pope in 1878 through 1903, agreed. He said, "We, the popes, hold upon this earth the place of Almighty God." End of quote. I'll tell you, ladies and gentlemen, this is audacity. This is so much nonsense, but it is audacity. The Roman pontiff claims to be next to God himself. Here's another statement from Leo number 13. This is a pope speaking. The supreme teacher in the church is the Roman pontiff. Union of minds, therefore, requires, together with a perfect accord in one faith, complete submission and obedience of the will to the church and to the Roman pontiff as to God himself. Well, that's something that we have right now. The Pope speaks, and people are supposedly must accept it as the voice of God himself, even though the Pope is a socialist, and the last Pope was a socialist, advocating the redistribution of wealth and the breakdown of our barriers and to let people come in. I just wonder why the popes and why the Roman Catholic Church wants to have no borders in our country and allow people to come in here. Why is the Roman officials and I'm speaking about the Roman Catholic officials, why they want no borders in our nation and want people from the third world to come and flood into our country? Why is that the case? Here's something else to note. This is once again from the Catholic Encyclopedia. The Catholic Encyclopedia tells us that the Roman Catholic Church has 3 branches of government, and it usurps all 3. The legislative branch, just like a secular government, the right to frame and sanction laws with it considers useful or necessary, which it considers useful or necessary. That is what the Roman Catholic Church, Catholic Encyclopedia says. So it has a legislative branch, it has a judicial branch, a judicial power, the right to judge how the faithful observe these laws, and executive power, that is coercive power, the right to enforce obedience and to punish disobedience to its laws. Now that, I say, is completely un-American. The entire corpus of what we've presented here is un-American in every way whatsoever. Once again, I want to emphasize, I recognize that there are many Roman Catholics who are very patriotic Americans, but they don't recognize, apparently, what the Roman Catholic Church actually teaches. It is a secular government, and it usurps the authority of the United States government and wants to rule over us. That's exactly how the Roman Catholic Church operates. And when the Roman Catholic Church is in power in a country, this is exactly what takes place, just as Pope Pius IX stated. And that's how the Roman Catholic Church has acted throughout history. Anyone who wants to consider that, just go through history, search the records yourself, and see how it is that the Roman Catholic Church is really un-American to our ideals.